The little girl's screams cut through the string quartet's melody like a knife through silk.
Why are you
Every
so
head
sad?
at the elegant outdoor wedding reception turned toward the dessert table where a small child stood frozen, her mouth wide open in pure terror. Tears streamed down her brown cheeks as she clutched a torn photograph in her tiny fists. Her pink flower girl dress was smudged with dirt at the hem, and her white shoes were scuffed. "Mommy," she wailed, her voice breaking. "Mommy's gone. Mommy's gone." Wedding guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Some pretended not to notice. Others whispered behind their champagne glasses. A few women in pastel dresses approached the child hesitantly, then backed away when her crying intensified. The bride's aunt tried to touch her shoulder, but the little girl recoiled, shaking her head violently. "Where's your mother, sweetie?" the woman asked, her voice strained with false cheer. "She's gone," the child sobbed harder, her whole body trembling. "She went to the car and she didn't come back. She's gone. Something bad happened." Julian Pierce stood near the bar, his tailored gray suit fitting perfectly across his broad shoulders. He was supposed to be networking at this wedding. The groom was a potential business partner. Instead, he found himself walking toward the crying child while everyone else stepped back. Something about her desperate fear pulled at memories he'd buried deep. He knelt down on one knee, bringing himself to her eye level. His 6'2" frame folded with practiced ease. Up close, he could see the terror in her dark brown eyes. She couldn't have been older than 6. "Hey there," he said softly. "My name is Julian. What's your name?" The little girl hiccuped, studying his face through her tears. "Zoe. That's a beautiful name, Zoe. Can you tell me what happened?" "My mommy brought me here. She was taking pictures. Then she said she needed to get something from the car. She told me to wait by the cake table." Zoe's voice rose again. "But she's been gone so long. She always comes back fast. Always. Something's wrong." Julian felt a chill run down his spine. The child's instincts were sharp. Too sharp. "How long has she been gone?" "I don't know. A really long time. I counted to 103 times." Zoe's tears fell faster. "She wouldn't leave me. She wouldn't. My mommy loves me." "I believe you," Julian said firmly. "We're going to find her right now. I promise you." Around them, the wedding guests had resumed their conversations, their concern evaporating like morning dew. The bride was dancing with her father. The groom laughed at someone's joke. Life went on while this child's world was falling apart. Julian stood and scanned the crowd for security. He spotted 2 guards in navy blue jackets near the entrance to the garden venue. He picked up Zoe, who wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. Her small body shook with silent sobs. "Excuse me," Julian approached the security guards with authority in his voice. "This child's mother is missing. Her name is Zoe, and her mother was hired as a photographer for this wedding. The child says her mother went to the parking lot over 30 minutes ago and hasn't returned." The older security guard, a man with gray hair and tired eyes, pulled out a radio. "What's the mother's name?" Zoe lifted her head. "Tasha Bennett. My mommy is Tasha Bennett." "And what was she wearing?" the guard asked. "A red shirt and blue pants," Zoe whispered. "She had her big camera with a black strap." The security guard spoke into his radio, calling for a sweep of the parking area. Julian held Zoe closer, feeling her heartbeat racing against his chest. Something wasn't right. A professional photographer wouldn't abandon her child at a wedding. Not for this long. "Sir, we'll handle this from here," the younger guard said, reaching for Zoe. But the little girl's grip tightened around Julian's neck. "No. I want to stay with Mr. Julian." "It's fine," Julian said. "I'll stay with her until her mother is found. Radio me when you have news." He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to the guard. "My cell number is on there." The guards exchanged glances at the name on the card. Julian Pierce. Everyone in the business world knew that name. The guards nodded quickly and hurried toward the parking lot. Julian carried Zoe to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the noise and celebration. He sat down on a stone bench under a large oak tree. The June afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the grass. "Can you show me that picture you're holding?" Julian asked gently. Zoe uncurled her fist, revealing a torn photograph. It showed a beautiful African-American woman with a bright smile, holding a baby. The woman wore a green summer dress and her natural hair fell in soft curls around her face. Half of the photo was torn away, leaving a jagged edge. "That's my mommy," Zoe said, touching the image with one finger. "She keeps this in her wallet. It's from when I was a baby." That's me she's holding. She looks very happy, Julian observed. She is happy. We're happy together. Zoe's chin trembled. Why isn't she here? She promised she'd be fast. Julian didn't have an answer that would comfort her. Instead he said, "Tell me about your mom. What does she like to do?" "She takes pictures. Beautiful pictures. She showed me how to use a camera. She says I have a good eye." Zoe's voice steadied slightly as she talked. "She makes me pancakes on Sundays. We go to the park and feed the ducks. She reads me stories every night before bed. She sounds like a wonderful mother. She's the best mommy in the whole world," Zoe said with fierce certainty. Then her face crumpled again. "Where is she? Why won't anyone find her?" Julian's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. "Pierce. Mr. Pierce, this is Officer Rodriguez with Venue Security. We found Ms. Bennett in the parking lot. She's unconscious. Paramedics are on the way." The world seemed to tilt. Julian kept his voice calm even as his heart raced. "Is she breathing?" "Yes, sir. Pulse is weak but steady. Looks like she collapsed. There's no sign of trauma or foul play. The paramedics are here now. I'm bringing her daughter to the parking lot." "Sir, maybe the child shouldn't see. She deserves to know her mother is being helped," Julian said firmly. "We're coming." He ended the call and looked down at Zoe. Her big brown eyes watched him with hope and fear mixed together. "They found your mom, Zoe. She's sick and needs to go to the hospital. But the doctors are going to help her." "Is she going to die?" Zoe's voice was barely a whisper. "No, sweetheart. She's going to be okay. But we need to go to her now." Julian stood, still holding Zoe, and walked quickly through the garden. Behind them, the wedding continued. The band played. Guests laughed. Nobody noticed the man in the gray suit carrying a terrified child toward the parking lot where an ambulance's lights flashed red and blue against the late afternoon sky. Have you ever watched someone's world fall apart while everyone around them just kept celebrating? Could you walk past a crying child, or would you stop? Drop a comment below and let me know what you would do. And if this story is pulling at your heart, hit that subscribe button so you never miss what happens next. The parking lot was chaos transformed into careful order. 2 ambulances sat with their back doors open, lights painting the asphalt in urgent colors. Paramedics in navy blue uniforms moved with practiced efficiency around a woman lying on the ground between 2 cars. Even from a distance, Julian could see her. The red shirt Zoe had described. The professional camera lying a few feet away, its lens cap still on. The woman's brown skin looked pale in the harsh emergency lights, and her body was completely still. "Mommy?" Zoe screamed, struggling in Julian's arms. "Let me go. I need my mommy." A female paramedic with kind eyes approached them quickly. "Sweetheart, your mommy is going to be okay. We're helping her right now. But you need to stay back so we can work, all right?" "What happened to her?" Julian asked over Zoe's crying. "Looks like she collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. Her blood sugar is dangerously low." "When did she last eat?" Zoe sobbed into Julian's shoulder. "She didn't eat breakfast this morning. She said she didn't have time. She had to go to 3 different jobs before we came here." The paramedic's face tightened with understanding and sadness. 3 jobs. "She works really hard," Zoe said through her tears. "She's always tired. But she never stops. She says she has to take care of us." Julian felt something crack open in his chest. He'd built an empire from nothing, working himself to exhaustion in his 20s. But he'd had resources, connections, and most importantly, no one depending on him for their next meal. This woman had a child to feed and was pushing herself past the breaking point. "We're transporting her to Memorial Hospital," the paramedic said. "Are you family?" Julian hesitated. "I'm helping. This is her daughter, Zoe. I'm making sure she gets to her mother." The paramedic nodded. "Follow the ambulance. Room 7 in the emergency department." Julian watched as they loaded Tasha Bennett onto a stretcher. She didn't wake up. Her head lolled to the side and her camera bag slipped from her shoulder. A younger paramedic caught it before it hit the ground. "Her camera," Zoe whispered. "She needs her camera for work." "I'll make sure she gets it," Julian promised. He carried Zoe to his car, a sleek silver sedan that stood out among the wedding guests' vehicles. As he buckled her into the back seat, he noticed the torn photograph still clutched in her hand. "Where's the other half of this picture?" he asked gently. Zoe's face went still. "My daddy has it. Mommy tore it in half after he left us. She said she didn't want to see his face anymore, but she kept my baby picture because I was beautiful even when I was tiny." Julian felt anger flash through him, hot and sudden. What kind of man walked away from this precious child and her hard-working mother? When did he leave? Julian asked as he started the car. When I was 3. I don't remember him much. Mommy says that's okay. She says we're better off with just us two. Zoe's voice got smaller. But sometimes she cries at night. I hear her through my bedroom door. She tries to be quiet, but I always hear. The drive to Memorial Hospital took 12 minutes. Julian kept checking the rearview mirror, watching Zoe's frightened face. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, the torn photo pressed between her palms. Are you scared? Julian asked. Yes, Zoe admitted. I'm scared all the time lately. Mommy tries to hide it, but I know we're in trouble. Last week, a man came to our door and said we had to leave our apartment. Mommy cried after he left. Then she worked extra hours every day. Did your mom find a new place to live? Julian asked carefully. I don't know. She stopped talking about it. She just keeps working. Zoe looked out the window at the passing buildings. She's going to be mad at me. Why would she be mad at you? Because everyone saw me crying at the wedding. She always tells me to be brave and strong. She says Bennett girls don't fall apart. Zoe's bottom lip trembled. But I was so scared. I thought something bad happened to her. I thought maybe she left me like Daddy did. Zoe, look at me, Julian said firmly, pulling into the hospital parking lot. He turned in his seat to face her. Your mother didn't leave you. She got sick because she's been working too hard trying to take care of you. And crying when you're scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Your mom would want you to ask for help when you need it. Are you sure? I'm positive. They walked into the emergency room together, Zoe's small hand gripped tightly in Julian's larger one. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the soft garden atmosphere of the wedding. A tired-looking receptionist glanced up from her computer. We're here for Tasha Bennett, Julian said. This is her daughter. The receptionist's expression softened when she saw Zoe. Room 7. Through those double doors, turn right. The emergency department was organized chaos. Nurses rushed past with clipboards and medicine carts. Machines beeped in different rhythms. Somewhere down the hall, someone moaned in pain. But in room 7, everything was quiet. Tasha Bennett lay in a hospital bed, and 4-line running into her left arm. Her eyes were closed, but her chest rose and fell with steady breaths. Someone had pulled her natural hair back into a simple ponytail. Her red shirt was wrinkled from lying on the hot asphalt. Mommy, Zoe whispered, pulling free from Julian's hand. She ran to the bedside and grabbed her mother's hand. Mommy, please wake up. A doctor in a white coat entered the room, her stethoscope draped around her neck. She had warm brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Are you family? She asked Julian. A friend. I was at the event where Ms. Bennett collapsed. I've been taking care of her daughter. The doctor nodded. Ms. Bennett is stable now. Her blood sugar was critically low, and she's severely dehydrated. When was the last time she had a proper meal? Julian looked at Zoe, who shook her head. I don't know. Maybe yesterday? She gave me her lunch yesterday because she said she wasn't hungry. But I think she was just making sure I had enough to eat. The doctor's jaw tightened. She's malnourished. Her body is running on empty. If she'd gone much longer without collapsing, the consequences could have been severe. She glanced at Zoe, then chose her words carefully. Her body was shutting down. But she's going to be okay now? Julian asked. With rest, proper nutrition and hydration, yes. But she can't continue living the way she has been. Her body can't sustain this level of stress. The doctor looked directly at Julian. Does she have support? Family who can help? I don't know, Julian admitted. I just met her daughter today. Well, someone needs to make sure she takes care of herself. She's got a child depending on her. The doctor made a note on her chart. We'll keep her overnight for observation and for fluids. She should wake up in the next hour or so. After the doctor left, Julian sat in the chair next to Tasha's bed. Zoe climbed onto his lap, her eyes fixed on her mother's face. Will she be mad that we're at the hospital? Zoe asked quietly. Why would she be mad? Because hospitals cost money. Mommy always says we can't afford extra things. Last time I got sick, she took care of me at home even though I had a really high fever. She put cold towels on my head and stayed up all night watching me. Julian's hands curled into fists. This woman was sacrificing everything, even her health, to care for her daughter. And now she'd have medical bills on top of whatever financial crisis had led to her eviction notice. Don't worry about the money, Julian said. I'll take care of it. Zoe looked up at him with wide eyes. Why would you do that? You don't even know us. Because your mom needs help, and sometimes accepting help from others is the bravest thing we can do. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the beep of the heart monitor. Julian made a mental note to call his assistant and have her clear his schedule for the next few days. He wasn't leaving this hospital until he knew Tasha and Zoe would be okay. 20 minutes later, Tasha's eyes fluttered open. She stared at the ceiling for a moment, confused. Then she turned her head and saw Zoe on Julian's lap. Zoe? Her voice was hoarse and weak. Baby, what happened? Where are we? Mommy? Zoe scrambled off Julian's lap and threw herself at her mother, careful to avoid the foreline. You got sick. You fell down in the parking lot. I was so scared. Tasha's arms came up automatically to hold her daughter, but her movements were slow and uncoordinated. Her eyes found Julian's face, confusion and alarm mixing in her expression. Who are you? She asked. Where's my camera? The wedding. I was supposed to finish the reception shots. Your camera is safe, Julian said calmly, standing up. I'm Julian Pierce. I found Zoe at the wedding after you collapsed. The paramedics brought you here. Tasha's face went pale, then flushed with embarrassment and panic. The hospital? No, I can't afford this. I need to leave. I need to. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. I have to get back to work. I have bills to pay. Ms. Bennett, you need to rest, Julian said firmly. The doctor says you collapsed from exhaustion and low blood sugar. You're malnourished and dehydrated. I'm fine, Tasha insisted even as her hands shook. I just need to eat something. Zoe baby, get mommy's purse. We're going home. Mommy please don't go, Zoe begged. The doctor said you have to stay. Tears filled Tasha's eyes. I can't stay baby. We can't afford it. You don't understand. Actually, I do understand, Julian said quietly. I grew up poor, Ms. Bennett. My parents died when I was 8. My grandmother raised me in a one-bedroom apartment. She worked 3 jobs just like you're doing. I watched her destroy her health trying to give me a better life. He paused. She died when I was 16. Heart attack. The doctor said it was from stress and exhaustion. Tasha stared at him, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm sorry about your grandmother, but I don't have a choice. Zoe needs food, clothes, a place to live. I'm all she has. You're no good to her dead, Julian said bluntly. And that's where you're heading if you don't stop and accept help. Help from who? A stranger? From someone who understands what you're going through and has the resources to change your situation. Julian pulled a chair closer to her bed. Let me help you. Please. Tasha looked at her daughter, then back at Julian. Her pride warred with her desperation. Finally, she closed her eyes and whispered, What kind of help? The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors and the hum of air conditioning. Julian sat down in the chair next to Tasha's bed while Zoe curled up against her mother's side, careful not to disturb the foreline. First, let me handle the hospital bill, Julian said. That's non-negotiable. You need medical care, and worrying about the cost while you're recovering won't help anyone. Tasha started to protest, but Julian held up a hand. Before you say no, think about Zoe. Think about what would have happened if you'd collapsed somewhere else. Somewhere she wasn't safe. Somewhere no one found you in time. His voice was gentle but firm. You can't take care of her if you're dead, Miss Bennett. The blunt words hit Tasha like cold water. She looked down at Zoe, who had fallen asleep against her shoulder, exhausted from fear and crying. Her baby girl's face was still marked with dried tears. You're right, Tasha whispered, her own tears falling now. I know you're right. I've been trying so hard to do everything myself. After Zoe's father left, I promised myself I'd never depend on anyone again. I'd never let anyone have power over us. Accepting help isn't the same as giving up power, Julian said. It's strategic, smart. Every successful person I know got where they are because they knew when to ask for assistance. And what do you want in return? Tasha asked, her voice thick with suspicion and exhaustion. Nobody helps for free. There's always a price. Julian leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. I want you to get healthy. I want Zoe to have a stable home. And selfishly, I want to stop feeling guilty about having so much when others have so little. Guilt is a terrible reason to help someone, Tasha said. You're right. So let me give you a better one. Julian met her eyes directly. I built my company, Pierce Media Group, from nothing. We specialize in visual content, marketing campaigns, and brand storytelling. I've been looking for a lead photographer for months. Someone with real talent, not just technical skill. Someone who can capture genuine emotion in their work. And you think that's me? You've never even seen my portfolio. I saw your camera bag. I saw the way you organized your equipment. But mostly, I saw your daughter's face when she talked about your work. She said you take beautiful pictures. She said you taught her to see the world through a lens. Julian pulled out his phone. May I look at your website? Tasha hesitated, then nodded. TashaBennettPhotography.com. But it's nothing special. Just weddings, events, some family portraits. Julian typed the address into his browser. The website loaded and he scrolled through her gallery in silence. Tasha watched his face, trying to read his expression. The photographs were stunning. Not because of expensive equipment or fancy editing, but because of the raw emotion in every frame. A bride laughing with her head thrown back, pure joy captured mid-motion. An elderly couple holding hands at their anniversary party, 50 years of love visible in their intertwined fingers. A child blowing out birthday candles, wonder and excitement lighting up his face. Nothing special? Julian said, looking up from his phone. Miss Bennett, these are incredible. You have a gift. Thank you, Tasha said quietly, not sure if she believed him. But I'm not some fancy art photographer. I just take pictures at parties and weddings. You capture moments that matter. That's what my company needs. Julian set his phone down. Here's my offer. I want to hire you as the lead photographer for Pierce Media Group. Full-time position. Salary of $90,000 a year plus benefits. Health insurance, dental, vision. 4 weeks paid vacation. Flexible hours so you can be there for Zoe. And a company car so you don't have to worry about transportation to shoots. Tasha's mouth fell open. She stared at Julian like he'd just spoken a foreign language. 90,000? That's more than I make in 2 years working all 3 jobs. Then you're severely underpaid for your talent. I can't accept that, Tasha said automatically, even as hope flickered in her chest. It's too much. I'm not worth that. The market disagrees with you. That's a standard salary for a lead photographer at a major media company. Actually, it's on the lower end. But we can renegotiate after 6 months if you prove yourself, which I'm confident you will. Why would you do this? Tasha asked, suspicion creeping back in. You don't know me. I could be a terrible employee. I could steal from you. I could be unreliable. Are you any of those things? No, but... Then the question is whether you're willing to accept help when it's offered. Julian's voice softened. Miss Bennett, I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust yourself. Take the job. Work hard. Prove you deserve it. If it doesn't work out after 3 months, we'll part ways with no hard feelings. But give yourself a chance. Tasha looked at Zoe again, her sleeping daughter's face peaceful now. When was the last time her baby had looked this relaxed? Usually, even in sleep, Zoe's forehead was creased with worry that no 6-year-old should carry. What about housing? Tasha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. We're being evicted from our apartment at the end of the month. I've been looking for something affordable, but everything requires first month, last month, and a security deposit. I don't have that kind of money saved. The company has corporate housing for new employees relocating from other cities. You can stay there rent-free for the first 3 months while you save up for your own place. After that, the company subsidizes housing costs as part of the benefits package. This is too good to be true, Tasha said, shaking her head. People don't just hand you a perfect life because you collapsed at a wedding. You're right. They don't. But I'm not handing you anything. I'm offering you a job. You'll work for every penny of that salary. My company has high standards and I expect excellence from my team. Julian stood up. Think about it tonight. The offer stands until you're discharged tomorrow. If you decide to accept, my assistant will have all the paperwork ready. And if I say no? Then I'll make sure your hospital bill is paid and I'll wish you the best. No strings attached. No pressure. But I hope you'll say yes, Miss Bennett. For Zoe's sake, if not your own. Julian walked to the door, then paused and turned back. One more thing. My grandmother used to tell me that pride is expensive. Sometimes the cost of refusing help is higher than the cost of accepting it. She learned that lesson too late. Don't make the same mistake. After he left, Tasha lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Zoe stirred against her shoulder, mumbling something in her sleep about pancakes and parks. Tasha's hand smoothed her daughter's hair automatically, a gesture of comfort she'd performed 1,000 times. $90,000 a year. Health insurance. A place to live. A chance to stop running on empty. It was everything she needed. Everything she'd been praying for during those late nights when the bills piled up and the eviction notice sat on the kitchen counter like a ticking time bomb. But could she trust it? Could she trust him? A nurse came in to check Tasha's vitals. She was a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her black hair and kind eyes. "You've got a good friend," the nurse said as she checked the 4-drip. "Mr. Pierce already took care of your bill. The whole thing. And he arranged for a private room so your daughter can stay with you comfortably tonight." "He's not my friend," Tasha said automatically. "I just met him today." "Well, he sure is acting like a friend. Maybe even something more, given the way he looks at you." The nurse winked. "There's nothing like that," Tasha protested, feeling her face flush. "He's just being kind. Honey, I've worked in this hospital for 30 years. I've seen a lot of people show kindness. But the way that man looked at you and your daughter? That wasn't just kindness. That was care. Real care." The nurse finished her checks and moved toward the door. "Don't be too proud to accept a good thing when it comes along. Life doesn't hand out many second chances." After the nurse left, Tasha closed her eyes. She thought about the last 3 years. Working herself to exhaustion. Never seeing Zoe enough. Living in constant fear of the next bill, the next crisis, the next disaster. She thought about Zoe's face when she talked about Julian. The way her daughter had relaxed in his presence, feeling safe for the first time in who knows how long. She thought about Julian's words. "Pride is expensive." Her grandmother had been proud too. Too proud to ask for help when she lost her job. Too proud to accept food stamps when the money ran out. Too proud to admit she couldn't do it alone. Tasha had inherited that pride, wearing it like armor against a world that had already hurt her once. But pride didn't pay bills. Pride didn't put food on the table. Pride didn't give Zoe the stable, happy childhood she deserved. Tasha opened her eyes and looked at her sleeping daughter. Zoe's small hand was curled against her chest, and her breathing was soft and even. She looked peaceful. Content. Safe. "Okay," Tasha whispered to the empty room. "Okay, I'll accept. For you, baby girl. I'll accept the help." She pressed the call button for the nurse. When the same kind-faced woman appeared in the doorway, Tasha said, "Can you ask Mr. Pierce to come back? I need to talk to him." The nurse smiled. "I thought you might. He's in the waiting room." Never left. 10 minutes later, Julian knocked softly on the door and entered. He'd removed his suit jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves. He looked tired but alert. "You wanted to see me?" he asked. "I'll take the job," Tasha said, the words coming out in a rush before she could change her mind. "I'll work hard. I'll prove myself. And I'll pay you back somehow for the hospital bill." "There's nothing to pay back," Julian said. "That was a gift, not a loan." "Then I'll work extra hours. I'll take on additional projects." "Oh." Tasha's voice broke. "I'll find a way to show you this wasn't a mistake." Julian crossed the room and sat in the chair beside her bed again. "Ms. Bennett, the only way this becomes a mistake is if you don't take care of yourself. If you burn out again. If you push yourself past your limits trying to prove something." He looked at her seriously. "I need you healthy and whole. That's the condition of employment. You work reasonable hours. You take your vacation time. You ask for help when you need it. Deal?" Tasha laughed, a sound somewhere between joy and disbelief. "Deal. Good. My assistant will bring the paperwork tomorrow morning. You start in 2 weeks, which gives you time to recover and get moved into the corporate housing." Julian stood to leave, then paused. "And Miss Bennett? Welcome to Pierce Media Group. I think this is going to work out very well for both of us." After he left, Tasha held Zoe close and let herself cry. But this time they were tears of relief, of hope, of the first deep breath she'd taken in 3 years. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally going to be okay. Morning light filtered through the hospital room window, painting everything in shades of pale gold. Tasha woke to find Zoe already awake, sitting cross-legged on the end of the hospital bed and coloring in a book someone must have brought while Tasha slept. "Morning, baby," Tasha said, her voice still rough from sleep and dehydration. "Mommy, you're awake." Zoe abandoned her crayons and crawled carefully up the bed to hug her mother. "The nice nurse said you're much better. She said we can go home today." Home. The word made Tasha's stomach clench. Their apartment wouldn't be home much longer. In 2 weeks they'd be evicted. But now, thanks to Julian Pierce's unbelievable offer, they'd have somewhere else to go. If it was real. If he hadn't changed his mind overnight. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. A woman in her 30s entered, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing a professional blue dress that probably cost more than Tasha's monthly rent. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her smile was warm but businesslike. "Good morning, Ms. Bennett. I'm Patricia Holmes, Mr. Pierce's executive assistant. He asked me to bring over the employment paperwork for you to review." Patricia set the portfolio on the rolling table near the bed. "How are you feeling this morning?" "Better," Tasha said, suddenly very aware of her wrinkled red shirt and the fact that she probably looked terrible. Thank you for coming." "Of course. Mr. Pierce takes care of his people." Patricia opened the portfolio and pulled out a neat stack of documents. "I have your employment contract here along with information about benefits, the corporate housing arrangement and your start date. Mr. Pierce mentioned you'll need 2 weeks to recover and get settled." "Yes," Tasha said, reaching for the papers with shaking hands. "Can I read through everything?" "Absolutely. Take your time. I'll wait." Patricia pulled up a chair and smiled at Zoe. "And who is this beautiful young lady?" "I'm Zoe," her daughter said shyly. "That's a pretty dress." "Thank you, sweetheart. Blue is my favorite color." Patricia glanced at the coloring book. "What are you drawing?" "A picture for Mr. Julian. He helped my mommy when she got sick." Tasha tuned out their conversation and focused on the papers in front of her. The employment contract was surprisingly straightforward. No confusing legal language. No hidden clauses. Just clear terms laid out in plain English. Position: lead photographer, Pierce Media Group. Salary: $90,000 per year, paid bi-weekly. Benefits: full health insurance, medical, dental, vision, starting day 1. 4 weeks paid vacation per year. 10 sick days. Company 401k with 5% match. Professional development allowance of $5,000 per year for equipment, training, or conferences. Hours: full-time with flexible scheduling to accommodate childcare needs. Some evening and weekend work required for events with advance notice. Housing: rent-free corporate housing for first 3 months of employment. After 3 months, company housing subsidy of $1,500 per month. Tasha read through the contract 3 times looking for the catch. There had to be a catch. Nobody offered this much with no strings attached. "Ms. Holmes," Tasha said finally, looking up from the papers. "This seems very generous. What's the expectation? What does Mr. Pierce really want from me?" Patricia's expression didn't change. "He wants excellent photography for the company's marketing campaigns, client projects, and promotional materials. He wants someone who will show up on time, work professionally with clients, and produce quality content. That's it. But the housing subsidy, the professional development money, the flexible schedule, that's unusual, isn't it? Mr. Pierce believes that taking care of employees leads to better work. He's built the entire company on that principle. Every single person at Pierce Media Group has access to the same level of benefits, adjusted for their position. It's not charity, Ms. Bennett. It's good business." Tasha wanted to believe her. Every fiber of her being wanted to sign those papers and accept this miracle. But years of struggling had taught her to be cautious. "What if I'm not good enough?" Tasha asked quietly, aware that Zoe was listening. "What if I can't deliver what he expects?" "Then there's a standard probationary period of 90 days. If things aren't working out for either party, employment can be terminated with 2 weeks' notice. You'd still receive full pay and benefits for that notice period, plus any accrued vacation time." Patricia pulled out another document. "Here's information about the corporate housing. It's a 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood 15 minutes from the office. Fully furnished. All utilities included." Tasha looked at the photos attached to the housing information. The apartment was beautiful. Clean. Bright. Safe. It had a modern kitchen, a living room with actual furniture, and 2 bedrooms with real beds. The building had a playground in the courtyard. Zoe leaned over to look at the pictures. "Mommy, is that where we're going to live?" "Maybe, baby. It has a playground." Zoe's eyes went wide. "And look, my bedroom has a big window. I could put my art table there and draw pictures with lots of light." Tasha's throat tightened. When was the last time Zoe had talked about the future with such simple, childlike hope? Usually, her daughter was too busy worrying about whether they'd have enough food or if they'd have to move again. "Ms. Bennett," Patricia said gently, "I know this probably feels overwhelming. Mr. Pierce has a tendency to move quickly when he sees talent. But I promise you this is legitimate. I've worked for him for 8 years. He's demanding but fair. He expects excellence but provides everything you need to achieve it. And he genuinely cares about his employees." "Why does he care so much?" Tasha asked. "He's a billionaire. He could hire anyone. Why go to all this trouble for someone he met yesterday?" Patricia was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Mr. Pierce's grandmother raised him after his parents died. She worked herself to death trying to give him opportunities. He was 16 when she had a massive heart attack in the middle of her shift at a factory. She died before the ambulance arrived. Patricia's voice softened. He spent the last 20 years making sure no one who works for him has to make that choice between their health and their family's survival. When he saw you yesterday collapsing in that parking lot with your daughter terrified and alone, it probably brought back every memory of finding his grandmother. Tasha felt tears sting her eyes. She understood that kind of loss, that kind of fear, that bone-deep terror of leaving your child alone in the world. He's trying to save me, Tasha whispered. Because he couldn't save her. Maybe, Patricia agreed. But that doesn't make the job offer any less real. It doesn't make you any less qualified. You have talent, Miss Bennett. Real talent. Mr. Pierce doesn't do charity hires. He does smart business decisions. And hiring you is smart business. Tasha looked down at the contract again. At the benefits that would give Zoe a stable life. At the salary that would let them breathe for the first time in years. At the housing that would give her daughter a safe place to grow up. She thought about Julian's words from last night. Pride is expensive. She thought about her own pride, and how it had kept her from asking for help even as she slowly destroyed herself. She thought about what would happen to Zoe if she continued down that path. Okay, Tasha said, reaching for the pen Patricia offered. Where do I sign? 20 minutes later, all the paperwork was complete. Tasha Bennett was officially the lead photographer of Pierce Media Group. She'd start in 2 weeks, after being discharged from the hospital and having time to move into the corporate housing. Patricia stood to leave, tucking the signed documents back into her portfolio. Mr. Pierce will be very pleased. He'll arrange for movers to help you pack and transport your belongings to the new apartment. Just let me know when you're ready. I don't have much to move, Tasha admitted. Most of our furniture came with the apartment. We just have clothes, some kitchen items, and Zoe's toys. Then it will be quick and easy. Patricia smiled warmly. Welcome to the team, Miss Bennett. I think you're going to do wonderful things with us. After Patricia left, Tasha sat in the hospital bed, staring at the copy of the contract in her hands. It was real. It was actually real. Mommy? Zoe climbed back onto the bed, settling against her mother's side. Are we really going to live in that apartment with the playground? Yes, baby. We really are. And you won't have to work 3 jobs anymore? No more 3 jobs. Just one good job with nice people. And we'll have enough food? The question broke Tasha's heart. Her 6-year-old daughter shouldn't have to worry about having enough food. We'll have plenty of food, Zoe. I promise. And you'll have a nice bedroom with a big window for your art table. And we'll be safe and happy. Zoe was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, Is Mr. Julian going to be our friend? Tasha thought about the man who had comforted her crying daughter, stayed with them through the hospital crisis, and offered them a lifeline without asking for anything in return. I think he might be, baby. I think he might be. A nurse came in to check Tasha's vitals one more time before discharge. Her blood sugar was normal now, and the 4 fluids had brought color back to her face. The doctor cleared her to go home with instructions to rest, eat regular meals, and follow up with her primary care physician in a week. As Tasha got dressed to leave, pulling on her wrinkled red shirt and blue pants, she caught sight of herself in the small bathroom mirror. She looked tired, worn down, older than her 30 years. But for the first time in 3 years she also looked hopeful. Julian Pierce appeared in the doorway just as Tasha was signing her discharge papers. He'd changed from his wedding suit into dark jeans and a green button-down shirt. He looked more relaxed, younger somehow. Ms. Bennett, he said with a slight smile. I heard you sign the contract. I did. Thank you. For everything. Tasha hesitated, then added, I won't let you down. I know you won't. I wouldn't have offered the position if I thought otherwise. Julian crouched down to Zoe's level. And how are you doing today, Miss Zoe? I'm good. Mommy says we're going to live in an apartment with a playground. Zoe bounced on her toes with excitement. And I get my own bedroom with a big window. That sounds perfect, Julian said warmly. Will you draw me a picture when you get all settled in? I already drew you one. Zoe held up the coloring book page she'd been working on. It showed 2 stick figures, one tall and one small, holding hands under a bright yellow sun. That's you and me. Because you helped my mommy. Julian took the picture carefully, his expression soft. This is the best gift anyone's given me in a long time. Thank you, Zoe. I'll put it in my office. Watching them interact, Tasha felt something warm unfold in her chest. This man, this billionaire CEO who could be anywhere doing anything, was taking time to make her daughter feel special. To make her feel valued. Maybe Patricia was right. Maybe Julian Pierce really was just a decent person trying to do good in the world. Or maybe, a small voice whispered in the back of Tasha's mind, he's something even more than that. She pushed the thought away. Now wasn't the time for those kinds of feelings. Now was the time to focus on recovery, on moving, on starting this new job and proving she deserved it. But as Julian drove them home to their soon-to-be former apartment, with Zoe chattering happily in the back seat about playgrounds and art tables, Tasha couldn't help but notice the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The way his hands looked strong and capable on the steering wheel. The way his voice sounded patient and kind when he answered Zoe's endless questions. She was in trouble. The kind of trouble that had nothing to do with money or housing or jobs. The kind of trouble that involved feelings she'd sworn never to have again after Zoe's father left. But that was a problem for another day. Right now, she just needed to focus on rebuilding their life, one day at a time. 2 weeks passed in a blur of packing, moving, and settling into their new life. The corporate housing apartment was everything the pictures had promised and more. Tasha and Zoe moved in on a sunny Monday morning, with help from a professional moving company Julian had arranged. Zoe ran through the empty apartment, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. "Mommy, look. My room is huge. And there's a closet. A real closet." Tasha stood in the doorway of Zoe's new bedroom, watching her daughter's pure joy. The room had pale yellow walls, a large window that let in streams of morning light, and enough space for Zoe's small bed, her toy box, and the art table Tasha had always promised but never been able to afford. "We'll get you that art table soon," Tasha said. "Once I get my first paycheck. Can I help pick it out?" "Of course, baby." The rest of the day was spent unpacking their meager belongings. Tasha was embarrassed by how little they had to fill this beautiful space. Their old apartment had been cramped, the furniture worn and mismatched. Here, the corporate housing came fully furnished with a comfortable couch, a real dining table, and beds with actual mattresses instead of the air mattresses they'd been using. That night, after putting Zoe to bed in her new room, Tasha stood in the kitchen and just breathed. The refrigerator was stocked with food Julian's assistant had arranged to be delivered. The cabinets held dishes and pots and pans. The bathroom had clean towels and working plumbing. Felt like a dream. A dream she might wake up from at any moment. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Julian. "Patricia told me you moved in today. How's everything? Do you need anything?" Tasha stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "Everything is perfect. Thank you again for all of this. You start tomorrow. Are you nervous?" "Terrified," Tasha admitted. "Don't be. You're going to be great. See you at 9 a.m. Patricia will show you around and introduce you to the team." Tasha set her phone down and walked to the window. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, and from here she could see the courtyard with its playground. A few children played on the swings while their parents watched from nearby benches. It looked safe, normal. Like the kind of place where kids could just be kids. The kind of place Zoe deserved. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Tasha slept soundly. No worries about eviction notices. No anxiety about which bill to pay first. No bone-deep exhaustion from working 3 jobs. Just peace. The next morning, Tasha dressed carefully in a green blouse and black pants, the nicest clothes she owned. She dropped Zoe off at the after-school program Julian had helped arrange at a nearby elementary school. The program ran from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., giving Tasha time to work without worrying about childcare. Pierce Media Group's headquarters was a modern glass building in the heart of downtown. Tasha walked through the revolving doors at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early. The lobby was bright and welcoming with large windows and contemporary art on the walls. Patricia met her at reception with a warm smile. "Right on time. Let me show you around before we head up to your office." "I have an office?" Tasha asked, surprised. "Of course. All our lead photographers have their own workspace for editing and planning shoots." Patricia led her to the elevators. "We're on the 8th floor." The tour was overwhelming in the best way. Pierce Media Group had state-of-the-art editing bays, multiple studio spaces for controlled shoots, a vast equipment library with cameras and lighting gear that made Tasha's mouth water, and a staff break room that looked like something out of a magazine. "This is your office," Patricia said, opening a door near the end of a quiet hallway. The office was small but perfect. A desk with a large computer monitor for editing. A comfortable chair. A bookshelf. A large window with a view of the city. On the desk sat a brand new professional camera, top of the line, with a note. Tasha picked up the note with trembling hands. Every photographer needs the right tools. Welcome to the team. JP. Mr. Pierce chose that camera himself, Patricia said. He researched what equipment you were currently using and upgraded you to something that would better serve the company's needs. Tasha touched the camera reverently. It was worth at least $6,000. She dreamed of owning a camera like this but never imagined actually having one. I can't accept this, Tasha whispered. It's company equipment, Patricia said firmly. Just like the laptop, the phone, and the lighting kits you'll have access to. You're not accepting a gift, Ms. Bennett. You're accepting the tools you need to do your job at the highest level. Tasha nodded, blinking back tears. Okay. Thank you. The rest of the morning was spent in orientation meetings. Human Resources explained the benefits package in detail. IT set up her computer and phone. Patricia introduced her to the marketing team she'd be working with most closely. Everyone was friendly. Professional. No one looked at her like she didn't belong there, even though Tasha felt like an imposter among these polished, educated professionals. At noon, Patricia knocked on her office door. Mr. Pierce would like you to join him for lunch in the executive dining room. He likes to have one-on-one meetings with all new employees during their first week. The executive dining room was on the top floor, an elegant space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Julian was already there, sitting at a small table near the windows. He stood when Tasha entered. Miss Bennett, please sit down. He gestured to the chair across from him. How's your first morning going? It's overwhelming, Tasha admitted, sitting down. Everyone is so nice. The equipment is incredible. I keep waiting for someone to tell me there's been a mistake. There's no mistake. You belong here. Julian poured water for both of them from a carafe on the table. Tell me about your photography background. I know you've been shooting weddings and events, but how did you get started? Tasha relaxed slightly, talking about something she loved. My mom gave me a camera when I was 12. Nothing fancy, just a simple point and shoot. But I fell in love with it. I loved the way I could freeze moments, capture feelings. I took photography classes in high school and dreamed about going to art school. What happened? Life happened. I got pregnant with Zoe when I was 23. Her father and I weren't married, but we were planning a future together. Then he left when she was 3. Said he wasn't ready for the responsibility. Tasha's voice stayed steady, but Julian could hear the old hurt underneath. I had to focus on survival after that. Art school seemed like a silly dream when I had a child to feed. It's not silly, Julian said. In fact, I'm going to make it part of your professional development plan. Pierce Media Group will pay for you to take advanced photography courses. Workshops with industry leaders. Whatever you need to keep growing as an artist. You're giving me too much, Tasha said quietly. The job, the housing, the equipment, now education. I don't know how to repay all this. You repay it by creating beautiful work. By being a positive presence in this company. By showing other people who are struggling that there's a path forward. Julian leaned forward. And by taking care of yourself and your daughter. That's the real payment, Ms. Bennett. Building a good life. Their food arrived. Simple sandwiches and salad, but made with fresh ingredients that tasted like luxury compared to the cheap ramen and canned food Tasha had been living on. Tell me about Zoe, Julian said. How's she adjusting to the new apartment? Tasha's face lit up. She loves it. She's already made friends with 2 kids in the building who go to the same after-school program. Last night she told me she feels safe for the first time in forever. Her voice caught. She's 6 years old. She shouldn't have spent the last 3 years feeling unsafe. But she's safe now. And that's because you fought for her. You worked yourself to exhaustion to give her the best life you could. Julian's expression was intense. You're a good mother, Miss Bennett. Don't ever doubt that. The sincerity in his voice made Tasha's throat tight. When was the last time someone had told her she was doing a good job? When was the last time someone had seen her struggle and validated it instead of judging her? Thank you, she whispered. You don't know how much I needed to hear that. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Julian said, your first assignment starts next week. We're doing a campaign for a children's literacy nonprofit. They want authentic photos of kids reading, learning, discovering the joy of books. I thought it would be perfect for you. That sounds wonderful. I'd love to work on that. Good. Patricia will send you all the details. Julian paused, then added, and Tasha? You can call me Julian. We don't need to be so formal. It was the first time he'd used her first name. The sound of it in his voice sent a small flutter through her chest. Okay, Julian, she said, testing out the familiarity. And thank you. For everything. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. You changed our lives. You changed your own life, Julian corrected gently. I just opened a door. You're the one walking through it. That afternoon, Tasha threw herself into her work. She reviewed past campaigns Pierce Media Group had run, studying the photography style and quality standards. She organized her new equipment and spent an hour just playing with the camera, learning its features and capabilities. At 5:30 p.m., she packed up to pick up Zoe from the after-school program. As she waited for the elevator, Julian appeared in the hallway. Heading out? He asked. Yes, I need to get Zoe. The program ends at 6. Mind if I walk down with you? I'm done for the day too. They rode the elevator in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. When they reached the lobby, Julian held the door for her. Same time tomorrow? He asked. I'll be here, Tasha promised. She walked to her car, a used sedan that barely ran, very aware of Julian getting into his expensive vehicle a few rows away. Two different worlds, colliding in the strangest way. But as she drove to pick up Zoe, Tasha allowed herself to smile. Her first day had gone well. Better than well. She felt competent, valued, and for the first time in years hopeful about the future. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something wonderful. 3 months passed in a rhythm of work, creativity, and slowly building confidence. Tasha threw herself into every project Julian assigned, determined to prove she deserved her position. The literacy nonprofit campaign was a massive success, with her photographs capturing genuine moments of children discovering the magic of reading. The client was thrilled, and Julian praised her work in front of the entire marketing team. These aren't just pictures, he said during the presentation. These are stories. This is the level of work I expect from everyone at Pierce Media Group. Tasha felt pride bloom in her chest. She was good at this. She belonged here. The corporate housing arrangement ended after 3 months as promised. But with her salary and the housing subsidy, Tasha was able to rent a small 2-bedroom apartment just 2 blocks from the corporate building. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. She and Zoe painted the walls together, choosing cheerful colors that made the space feel like home. Zoe thrived in her new environment. She made friends at school, joined an art club, and started talking about becoming an artist when she grew up. The worry lines that had creased her young forehead gradually faded. She laughed more, played more, acted like the carefree child she should have been all along. And Tasha? She was rediscovering who she was beyond survival mode. She started taking the advanced photography courses Julian had promised, learning new techniques and pushing her creative boundaries. She joined the company softball team, making friends with her co-workers. She even went out for drinks with some of the other women in the marketing department, something she never would have had time or money for before. But the most unexpected development was her growing friendship with Julian. It started small. Quick conversations in the hallway. Him stopping by her office to check on projects. Casual lunches in the executive dining room that became a weekly tradition. Then it grew into something more. Julian started inviting her to creative strategy meetings, valuing her input on visual storytelling. He asked her opinion on new equipment purchases for the photography department. He trusted her judgment, respected her expertise, and treated her like a colleague, not just an employee he'd rescued. In return, Tasha found herself looking forward to seeing him each day. She noticed little things about him. The way he rolled up his shirt sleeves when he was focused on a problem. The way his eyes lit up when discussing a new project. The way he always remembered small details about people's lives, asking thoughtful follow-up questions about family, hobbies, and dreams. He was kind. Not just to her but to everyone. She watched him stop to talk with the janitor about his grandson's baseball game. Saw him bring coffee to the receptionist who'd stayed late finishing a project. Noticed him remembering birthdays and work anniversaries for every single employee. Julian Pierce wasn't just a good boss. He was a good person. And Tasha was starting to fall for him. She tried to fight it. Told herself it was just gratitude, not attraction. Reminded herself that he was her boss, a billionaire, completely out of her league. Convinced herself that he was just being professionally friendly, nothing more. But then came the charity gala. Pierce Media Group was a major sponsor of the annual Children's Hospital fundraiser, a black-tie event that drew the city's elite. Julian asked Tasha to attend as the company photographer, documenting the event for promotional materials. It's a work assignment, he said, sitting in her office on a Thursday afternoon. But I'd like you to enjoy the evening too. Bring Zoe if you want. We have a kids program running during the event with games, movies, and activities. All the employees' children are invited. That sounds amazing, Tasha said, already thinking about logistics. What's the dress code? Formal. Black tie. Julian hesitated, then added, Patricia can help you find something appropriate if you need assistance. The company has an allowance for employee formal wear for these types of events. Tasha's first instinct was to refuse, but she was learning to accept help when it was offered. Thank you, she said. I'd appreciate that. The following Saturday, Patricia took Tasha shopping at an upscale boutique. Tasha felt completely out of place among the expensive gowns and designer labels. I can't afford any of this, she whispered to Patricia. The company can, Patricia reminded her. You're representing Pierce Media Group at a major event. Mr. Pierce wants you to feel confident and comfortable. They found a dress in deep blue, elegant without being overly flashy. It fit perfectly, making Tasha feel beautiful in a way she hadn't in years. Patricia also helped her pick out a smaller dress for Zoe in soft pink, since she'd be attending the kids' program. The night of the gala, Tasha spent extra time on her hair and makeup. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked polished, professional, pretty. Zoe bounced around the apartment in her pink dress, twirling in front of the mirror. Mommy, we look like princesses. We do, baby. We really do. They arrived at the hotel ballroom where the gala was being held. The space was transformed with elegant decorations, soft lighting, and tables adorned with beautiful floral centerpieces. A live band played jazz in one corner. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne and appetizers. Tasha checked Zoe into the kids' program, which was set up in an adjacent conference room. The space was filled with games, craft stations, and a movie screening area. Zoe's eyes went wide with excitement. Are you sure you're okay here? Tasha asked, even though Zoe was already running toward a table of art supplies. I'm great, Mommy. Go take pictures. I'll be fine. Tasha returned to the ballroom and started working, capturing candid shots of guests arriving, people laughing at cocktail hour, the elegant table settings. She was so focused on her work that she didn't notice Julian approaching until he spoke. You look stunning. Tasha turned, her breath catching. Julian wore a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his eyes were warm as they met hers. Thank you, she managed. You look very nice too. Very nice. Julian smiled. I'll take it. He glanced at her camera. How's it going? Good. I've got some great shots already. The decorations photograph beautifully. Take a break for a bit. Have some dinner. Dance if you want. You don't have to work the entire night. But this is a work assignment. And I'm your boss telling you to take a break. Julian's tone was gentle but firm. Come on. Let me introduce you to some people. He guided her through the crowd, one hand lightly touching her lower back. Tasha was intensely aware of the contact even through her dress. Julian introduced her to nonprofit directors, other business leaders, and several of his personal friends. Each time he spoke about her work with genuine enthusiasm and respect. Tasha is our lead photographer. Her work on the literacy campaign was extraordinary. She has a gift for capturing authentic human emotion. No one looked at her like she didn't belong. They treated her as Julian's professional colleague, asking intelligent questions about her work and expressing admiration for the campaign photos they'd seen. Dinner was served, and Julian arranged for Tasha to sit at his table with other Pierce Media Group executives and their partners. The conversation flowed easily, ranging from industry trends to favorite travel destinations to funny office stories. Tasha realized she was having fun. Real, genuine fun. Not just surviving or enduring but actually enjoying herself. After dinner, the band transitioned to slower dancing music. Couples moved onto the dance floor, swaying to the romantic melody. Dance with me? Julian asked, extending his hand. Tasha's heart raced. This felt like crossing a line from professional to personal. But when she looked into his eyes and saw the quiet hope there, she couldn't refuse. Okay, she said, placing her hand in his. Julian led her onto the dance floor and pulled her close. One hand settled at her waist while the other held her hand gently. Tasha placed her free hand on his shoulder, hyper-aware of every point of contact between them. They swayed to the music, neither speaking. The ballroom faded away until it felt like they were the only two people in the world. I'm glad you came tonight, Julian said finally, his voice low. Me too. Thank you for including me. Tasha, I need to tell you something. Julian's hand tightened slightly at her waist. These past few months, getting to know you, watching you thrive at the company, seeing you happy, it's meant more to me than you know. Tasha's breath caught. Julian? I know the timing isn't ideal. I know I'm your boss and that complicates things. But I can't keep pretending this is just professional respect. He met her eyes directly. I have feelings for you. Real feelings. And I needed you to know. The world tilted. Tasha stared at him, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it over the music. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything right now. I just wanted to be honest with you. Julian's expression was open, vulnerable. If you don't feel the same way, that's okay. It won't change anything at work. Your job is secure regardless. But if there's even a chance that you might feel something too, I'd like to explore what that could mean for us. Tasha thought about the past 3 months. About the way her heart lifted every time she saw Julian. About how his opinion mattered more than anyone else's. About the way she'd started dressing a little nicer for work, hoping he'd notice. About the disappointment she felt on days when he was out of the office. I feel something too, she admitted quietly. I've been trying not to. Telling myself it's just gratitude or professional admiration. But it's more than that. Julian's face lit up with a smile that made him look younger, more carefree. Yeah, Tasha confirmed, allowing herself to smile back. But I'm scared, Julian. Zoe's father left us. He promised forever and then walked away without looking back. I can't go through that again. And Zoe can't either. She's already attached to you. If this doesn't work out. I understand, Julian said seriously. And I'm not asking you to rush into anything. We can take this slow. As slow as you need. All I'm asking for is a chance. A real chance to see where this could go. The song ended, but they remained on the dance floor, wrapped in each other's arms and the possibility of something new. Okay, Tasha said finally. A chance. But we take it slow. For Zoe's sake. For Zoe's sake, Julian agreed. And for yours. And for mine because I want to do this right. They pulled apart reluctantly as the band started a more upbeat song. Tasha returned to taking photographs, but everything felt different now. The world had shifted, realigned into something new and full of potential. Later, when she picked up Zoe from the kids' program, her daughter was buzzing with excitement about all the games she'd played and friends she'd made. Did you have a good time, Mommy? Zoe asked as they drove home. I did, baby. A really good time. Mr. Julian looked at you a lot tonight, Zoe observed with the sharp perception of children. He smiles different when he looks at you. Does he? Tasha tried to keep her voice casual. Oh, he looks happy. Like really, really happy. Zoe yawned. I like Mr. Julian. I hope he comes over to our apartment sometime. We could all have dinner together. Maybe, Tasha said, her heart full. Maybe we will. That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Tasha stood on her small balcony looking out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Thank you for tonight. For the dance. For being honest. For giving me a chance. Sleep well, Tasha. She typed back, thank you for seeing me. For everything. Good night, Julian. As she went to bed, Tasha felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, but genuine excitement about what the future might hold. Have you ever had someone see your worth when you couldn't see it yourself? Have you ever been brave enough to accept love after heartbreak? Drop a comment and share your story. And don't forget to subscribe because this journey is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The Monday after the gala, Tasha arrived at work with butterflies in her stomach. She didn't know what to expect. Would things be awkward? Would Julian regret his confession? Would their working relationship be ruined? She needn't have worried. Julian stopped by her office mid-morning with 2 cups of coffee. Good morning. Thought you might need this. Thank you, Tasha accepted the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. The touch sent electricity through her. How was your weekend? Good. Quiet. I caught up on some reading. Julian leaned against her doorframe, casual and relaxed. And I spent an embarrassing amount of time thinking about dancing with you. Tasha felt her cheeks warm. I may have done some of that too. Yeah. His smile was soft, intimate. Good. That's really good. They fell into an easy pattern over the following weeks. Julian respected Tasha's need to take things slow, but he made his interest clear in small, thoughtful ways. He'd bring her coffee in the morning. Stop by her office to share interesting articles about photography. Compliment her work in front of clients and colleagues. And slowly, gradually, their relationship deepened. 3 weeks after the gala, Julian invited Tasha to lunch at a small Italian restaurant near the office. Is this a date? Tasha asked as they walked to the restaurant. The October air was crisp and cool, making her grateful for her red sweater. "Would you like it to be?" Julian asked. "Yes," Tasha admitted. "I think I would." "Then it's definitely a date." Lunch was wonderful. They talked about everything and nothing. Julian told her about growing up in his grandmother's small apartment, how he'd worked his way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs. How he'd started Pierce Media Group in a garage with 2 friends and a dream. Tasha shared her own story. Her childhood in a working-class neighborhood. Her mother's support of her photography passion. The dreams she'd put aside when she got pregnant. The struggles of the past 3 years. "I used to think I'd failed," Tasha said quietly, picking at her pasta. "Like I'd made all the wrong choices and ruined my life. And now I realize I was just surviving. Doing the best I could with what I had. And that's not failure. That's strength." Julian reached across the table and took her hand. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, Tasha. The way you fought for Zoe, the way you never gave up even when things were impossibly hard. That takes incredible courage." Tasha looked at their joined hands. His was larger, calloused from years of hard work before his business success. Hers was smaller, scarred from different kinds of battles. Together they looked right. "I'm falling for you," she said, the words escaping before she could stop them. "I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be smart and cautious. But it's happening anyway." "Good," Julian said simply. "Because I'm already there. I've been falling for you since that first day at the wedding, watching you work through your recovery with so much determination and grace." They finished lunch and walked back to the office holding hands. Tasha didn't care who saw. She was tired of hiding, tired of protecting herself from happiness just because she'd been hurt before. Over the next month they went on more dates. Dinner at a cozy Thai restaurant. A Sunday morning at the farmer's market. A movie followed by ice cream. Each date felt natural and right, building on the foundation of friendship and respect they'd already established. Julian was careful around Zoe, aware that her approval and comfort mattered immensely. He didn't push himself into their family dynamic but instead let it develop organically. He'd stop by their apartment occasionally, bringing Chinese takeout for dinner. He'd play board games with Zoe, genuinely interested in her stories and drawings. He'd help Tasha with dishes after dinner, their shoulders brushing as they worked side by side at the sink. Zoe adored him and the feeling was clearly mutual. Tasha would catch them laughing together over some silly joke, or see Julian patiently explaining something about photography to Zoe as she practiced with a disposable camera he'd given her. One Saturday in November, Julian invited both of them to visit the city's botanical garden. It was the kind of place Tasha had always wanted to take Zoe but never had the time or money for. The garden was stunning even in late fall. Paths wound through carefully maintained landscapes. A koi pond reflected the gray November sky. A greenhouse held tropical plants that thrived despite the cold weather outside. Zoe ran ahead on the paths, stopping to examine interesting plants and call back to them with questions. "Mommy? Mr. Julian. What's this one called?" Julian would walk over and read the plant's label, often adding interesting facts about where it came from or how it grew. He had a gift for making education feel like fun, and Zoe hung on his every word. They stopped for hot chocolate at the garden cafe, sitting at a small table while Zoe colored in a children's activity book the cafe provided. "This is perfect," Tasha said quietly, watching her daughter's bent head as she carefully stayed within the lines. "Thank you for bringing us here." "Thank you for coming," Julian replied. He was watching Zoe too, his expression soft. "She's an amazing kid, Tasha. You've done such an incredible job raising her." "I had a lot of help recently," Tasha said with a small smile. "You did the hard part. I just opened some doors. You did a lot more than that." Tasha turned to face him fully. "Julian, I need to know something. Where do you see this going?" Because Zoe is already attached to you. I'm already attached to you. And if this is just temporary, if you're going to get bored or realize I'm not what you want." "Stop," Julian interrupted gently. He reached for her hand across the table. "Tasha, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to get bored. And you are exactly what I want." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I know it's early. I know we're still figuring this out. But I can see a future with you. With both of you. I want to be part of your lives if you'll let me." Tears pricked Tasha's eyes. "You really mean that?" "I've never meant anything more." Zoe looked up from her coloring. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby," Tasha said, squeezing Julian's hand. "Just happy tears." "Mr. Julian, are you making my mommy happy?" Zoe asked seriously. "I'm trying to," Julian said, meeting the little girl's eyes with equal seriousness. Is that okay with you? Zoe considered this, tilting her head. Then she nodded. Yes. Mommy deserves to be happy. She works really hard and takes good care of me. She should have someone who takes good care of her too. Out of the mouths of children. Tasha laughed through her tears. As they left the botanical garden that afternoon, walking back to Julian's car with Zoe skipping between them, Tasha realized something profound. She wasn't just falling in love with Julian. She was already in love with him. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like coming home. That evening, after Julian dropped them off at their apartment, Zoe helped Tasha make dinner. They worked side by side in the kitchen, Zoe carefully measuring ingredients while Tasha stirred the pot. I really like Mr. Julian, Zoe said casually as if discussing the weather. Do you think he could be my daddy? Tasha's hand stilled on the spoon. What makes you ask that, baby? Because he's nice to me and he makes you smile. And he doesn't act like I'm annoying. Some of Mommy's friends from before used to act like I was in the way. But Mr. Julian never does that. He asks me questions and listens to my answers like they matter. They do matter, Zoe. You matter. Always. I know. Zoe set down the measuring cup. So could he be my daddy? Not instead of my real daddy because I don't remember him anyway. But like a new daddy who actually wants to be here. Tasha knelt down to Zoe's level, looking into her daughter's earnest brown eyes. Baby, Mr. Julian and I are still figuring out our relationship. It's still new. But I promise you, whatever happens, you will always be the most important person in my life. Always. Can he be important too? Zoe asked. Yes, Tasha said, pulling her daughter into a hug. He can definitely be important too. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Tasha texted Julian. Zoe asked if you could be her daddy. 3 dots appeared, showing he was typing. Then, what did you tell her? That we're still figuring things out. But Julian, she wants you in our lives. Not just for me. For her. I want that too. More than you know. Can we talk tomorrow? Yes. Come by for dinner? I'll make pasta. I'll bring wine. Tasha went to bed with her heart full of hope and just a touch of fear. She was letting Julian in to both her and Zoe's heart. If this went wrong, if he left, it would break them both. But she was choosing to trust. Choosing to believe that sometimes, life handed you a second chance at happiness. And that it was okay to reach out and grab it with both hands. The November evening was cold but clear when Julian arrived at Tasha's apartment with a bottle of wine and a bouquet of bright orange Gerbera daisies. These are for you, he said, handing Tasha the flowers. And I brought juice boxes for Zoe. You didn't have to, Tasha said, but she was smiling as she accepted them. The flowers were cheerful and bright, nothing like the boring roses most men gave. They were perfect. Zoe ran to the door when she heard Julian's voice. Mr. Julian, did you bring the thing? Zoe, Tasha said warningly. What thing? Julian pulled a flat package from his bag with a grin. I may have promised a certain young lady that I'd bring a new coloring book. The kind with the really detailed pictures. Yes. Zoe grabbed the package and immediately tore it open. Inside was an elaborate coloring book with intricate designs and beautiful scenes. This is so cool. Thank you. She ran to the living room and spread out on the floor with her new crayons, completely absorbed. Julian followed Tasha into the kitchen, where pasta sauce simmered on the stove and garlic bread warmed in the oven. The apartment smelled like home, warm and inviting. Can I help? Julian asked. You can open the wine, Tasha said, handing him a corkscrew. And tell me what was so important we needed to talk tonight. Julian opened the wine carefully, poured 2 glasses and handed one to Tasha. Then he leaned against the counter, his expression serious. Zoe asked you about me being her father, he said. And that's not a responsibility I take lightly. I want you to know that if I'm going to be in her life, in both of your lives, I'm all in. Not half measures. Not temporary. All in. Tasha set down her wine glass, her hands trembling slightly. Julian, that's a big commitment. You need to be sure. I'm sure. I've been sure since that first day at the hospital when Zoe fell asleep in your arms and you looked at her like she was your entire world. I saw the love there, the fierceness. And I thought, that's what family looks like. Julian moved closer. I didn't have much family growing up. After my grandmother died, it was just me. Building the business, making money, achieving success. It all felt hollow because I had no one to share it with. But with you and Zoe, everything feels different. Better. Complete. We come as a package deal, Tasha warned, even as her heart soared. You can't just date me. You're signing up for school events and parent-teacher conferences and pediatrician appointments. You're signing up for Disney movies and macaroni art and bedtime stories. I know. And I want all of it. Julian took her hands in his. Tasha, I'm falling in love with you. I'm probably already there. And I care deeply about Zoe. I want to be someone she can depend on. Someone who shows up and stays. And if things don't work out between us? Tasha had to ask even though the words hurt. What happens to Zoe then? She's already attached to you. Then I still show up for her, Julian said firmly. If you and I decided we weren't right for each other romantically, I wouldn't just disappear from Zoe's life. She deserves better than that. We'd figure out a way to maintain a relationship so she doesn't lose another father figure. Tasha felt tears sting her eyes. You've really thought about this. Of course I have. This isn't just about my feelings, Tasha. This is about building something real and lasting with two people I care about deeply. The timer on the oven beeped. Tasha pulled out the garlic bread, grateful for the moment to collect herself. Julian was offering her everything she'd dreamed of but never thought she'd have again. Security. Partnership. Love. I'm scared, she admitted, setting the hot pan on the counter. I'm terrified of getting hurt again. Of Zoe getting hurt. I know. And I can't promise that we'll never argue or have hard times. But I can promise that I'll never walk away when things get difficult. I can promise that I'll always show up and try my best. Julian moved closer, cupping her face gently in his hands. Give me a chance to prove that not all men are like Zoe's father. Give me a chance to show you what real partnership looks like. Tasha looked into his eyes and saw sincerity, hope, and something deeper. Something that looked a lot like love. Okay, she whispered. Yes. I want to try this for real. Julian's face lit up with a smile that made him look younger, lighter. Yeah. Yeah, Tasha confirmed, smiling back through her tears. But you should know that I'm falling in love with you too. Actually, I think I'm already there. And that terrifies me. We can be terrified together, Julian said. Then he leaned down and kissed her. It was soft and gentle and perfect. Tasha's hands came up to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing under her palms. When they pulled apart, they were both breathless. Wow, Tasha said. Yeah, Julian agreed. Wow. Are you guys kissing? Zoe's voice came from the doorway. They broke apart quickly to find her standing there with a knowing smile. You are. I knew it. Does this mean Mr. Julian is your boyfriend now? How long have you been standing there? Tasha asked, trying not to laugh. Long enough. Zoe walked into the kitchen and looked between them. So, is he your boyfriend? Yes, Tasha said, glancing at Julian for confirmation. He nodded enthusiastically. Mr. Julian is my boyfriend now. Good. Can we eat dinner? I'm hungry. Just like that, the serious moment dissolved into laughter. They served dinner, sitting around Tasha's small dining table. Julian fit seamlessly into their evening routine, helping Zoe cut her pasta and asking about her day at school. After dinner, they all settled on the couch to watch a movie. Zoe sat between them, chattering about the plot and characters. Halfway through, she fell asleep, her head resting on Julian's arm. Should I move her to bed? Tasha whispered. In a minute, Julian said quietly. I kind of like this. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the rest of the movie with Zoe sleeping peacefully between them. It felt domestic and real and wonderful. When the movie ended, Julian carefully carried Zoe to her bedroom. Tasha pulled back the covers and he laid her down gently, removing her shoes but leaving her in her comfortable clothes. Tasha pulled a blanket over her daughter and kissed her forehead. In the living room, Julian prepared to leave. It was getting late and he had early morning meetings. Thank you for tonight, Tasha said, walking him to the door. For everything. Thank you for saying yes. For taking a chance on me. Julian kissed her again, longer this time. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I'll see you tomorrow? Tomorrow, Tasha confirmed. And Julian? I'm really glad you're in our lives. Me too, Tasha. Me too. After he left, Tasha cleaned up the kitchen, her mind replaying the evening. Julian's words. His kiss. The way he'd carried Zoe to bed with such care and gentleness. She checked her phone and found a text from him. Home safe. Can't stop thinking about you. Sleep well. Tasha typed back. Sweet dreams. Thank you for being wonderful. As she got ready for bed, Tasha realized she felt lighter than she had in years. The constant worry and fear that had become her baseline were fading, replaced by hope and happiness. She still had moments of doubt. Still worried about what would happen if things fell apart. But she was choosing to trust. To believe in Julian, in herself, and in the possibility of a beautiful future. The next morning at work, Patricia stopped by Tasha's office with a knowing smile. "So, I hear congratulations are in order." "News travels fast," Tasha said, unable to keep from smiling. "Mr. Pierce may have mentioned something this morning about finally getting the courage to ask you out properly." Patricia sat down in the chair across from Tasha's desk. "For what it's worth, I think you're perfect for him. I haven't seen him this happy in, well, ever." "Really? Really?" "He's always been driven and successful, but there was something missing. Now, he practically floats into the office every morning." Patricia stood to leave. "Just don't break his heart, okay? He's a good man." "I know he is," Tasha said softly. "And I'll do my best not to." The rest of the day passed in a blur of work and stolen glances with Julian when they passed in the hallway. They had lunch together in his office, talking about an upcoming campaign and carefully not touching across the desk, aware of the professional boundaries they needed to maintain at work. "This is going to be interesting," Julian said as their lunch ended. "Figuring out how to balance the personal and professional." "We'll figure it out," Tasha said confidently. "We'll make it work." And she believed it. For the first time in 3 years, Tasha genuinely believed that good things could happen. That love wasn't just a risk, but a reward worth fighting for. As she left Julian's office and returned to her work, Tasha caught sight of her reflection in a window. She looked happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. And she was. Winter arrived with unexpected warmth. Not the kind measured in temperature, but the kind that came from connection, from building something real and lasting with someone who truly cared. The relationship between Tasha and Julian deepened through December and into the new year. They fell into natural rhythms, balancing their professional lives at Pierce Media Group with their growing personal relationship. Julian became a fixture in Tasha and Zoe's daily life. He'd stop by their apartment 3 or 4 evenings a week, sometimes bringing takeout, sometimes cooking dinner with Tasha while Zoe did homework at the kitchen table. On weekends they'd do family activities together. The zoo, museums, ice skating at the outdoor rink downtown. To the outside world they looked like a real family. And increasingly that's exactly what they were becoming. Zoe had taken to calling Julian JJ, instead of Mr. Julian, a nickname she'd come up with that made Julian's face light up every time he heard it. He helped her with school projects, attended her art show at school, and even learned to braid her hair when Tasha was running late one morning. In February, Julian invited them both to spend a weekend at his lake house 2 hours outside the city. Tasha had never seen his personal residence before and was nervous about the trip. "What if this changes things?" she asked Patricia over coffee one morning. "What if seeing how he really lives makes me realize we're too different?" "Or," Patricia countered, "what if it shows you that despite the money and success, he's just a man who wants to build a life with you?" The lake house was beautiful but not ostentatious. It was a large cabin with lots of windows, comfortable furniture, and a cozy atmosphere. The lake behind the house was still partially frozen, creating a stunning landscape of ice and water. "This is amazing," Tasha said, standing on the back deck with a mug of hot chocolate. Zoe was inside, setting up a puzzle on the coffee table with Julian's help. "I bought it 5 years ago as a retreat," Julian said, coming to stand beside her. "A place to escape when the business gets overwhelming. But I haven't used it much. Always felt too big and empty for just me. And now it feels like it might finally serve its purpose. As a place for family." He looked at her seriously. "Tasha, I've been thinking about something." "That sounds ominous," Tasha teased, but her heart rate picked up. "It's not bad. At least, I hope you won't think it's bad." Julian took a deep breath. "We've been together for 5 months now. And I know that's not a long time by conventional standards. But I've never been more certain about anything in my life than I am about you and Zoe." Tasha set down her mug, giving him her full attention. "I want to ask you something important," Julian continued. "And I want you to take all the time you need to think about it. No pressure. No rush." "Okay," Tasha said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Would you consider building a future with me? A real future. Marriage, family, the whole thing." Julian's eyes were intense, vulnerable. "I know it's soon. I know you might need more time. But I wanted you to know where my heart is. Where it's been since that day at the wedding." Tasha felt tears sting her eyes. "Julian, you don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I just wanted to be honest about my intentions. About where I see this going. Because you and Zoe? You're everything I never knew I was missing." Tasha looked back through the window at her daughter, who was laughing at something as she fit puzzle pieces together. Zoe looked so happy, so secure.
so loved.
Then she looked at Julian, at this man who had walked into their lives at rock bottom and not only pulled them up but helped them soar. Who had shown her what real partnership looked like. Who had proven day after day that he was reliable and trustworthy and kind. I don't need time, Tasha said, surprising herself.
Yes.
Julian's eyes widened.
Yes. Yes.
I want to build a future with you. I want marriage and family and everything that comes with it. Tasha reached for his hand. 5 months might be fast by some people's standards, but we've lived a lifetime of experiences in those months. You've been there for every important moment. You've proven yourself over and over. I trust you, Julian. And I love you. I love you too, Julian said, pulling her into a kiss. So much. They stood on the deck, wrapped in each other's arms, while their breath formed clouds in the cold February air. Inside, Zoe called out asking if they wanted to help with the puzzle, completely unaware that her life had just taken another turn toward happiness. That night, after Zoe was asleep in one of the guest rooms, Julian and Tasha sat by the fireplace talking about the future. I don't want a long engagement, Julian said, his arm around Tasha's shoulders as she leaned against him. But I also don't want to rush you. 6 months? Tasha suggested. That would be next August. Time enough to plan something nice but not too elaborate. August sounds perfect. Julian kissed the top of her head. I want Zoe to be involved in the wedding. She's part of this too. She'll be thrilled. She's been talking about being a flower girl since she was 4 years old. Not a flower girl, Julian corrected gently. She'll be our daughter at that wedding. I want to officially adopt her if you'll let me. If she wants that. Tasha sat up to look at him directly. You want to adopt Zoe? I want to be her father in every way that matters. Legally, officially, permanently. Julian's voice was firm. She deserves that security. And I want that commitment. We should ask her, Tasha said, tears flowing freely now. This should be her choice too. The next morning they sat Zoe down at the kitchen table. She looked between them with curious eyes. Am I in trouble? She asked. No, baby, Tasha said quickly. We want to talk to you about something important. Something that involves you. Zoe, Julian said, meeting her eyes seriously. I asked your mom if she would marry me, and she said yes. Zoe's face lit up. Really? You're getting married? Does that mean you'll live with us? It does. But there's something else. Julian moved to kneel beside Zoe's chair, bringing himself to her eye level. I would like to be your dad. Not just your mom's husband but actually adopt you. That means I'd legally be your father. You'd be my daughter in every way. Would that be okay with you? Zoe was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she asked, would I call you Dad? You could call me whatever you're comfortable with. Dad JJ Julian. It's up to you. I think I'd like to call you Dad, Zoe said slowly, testing the word. Yeah, Dad. That sounds nice. Then I'd be honored to be your dad, Julian said, his voice thick with emotion. Zoe launched herself at him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. I always wanted a dad who wanted to stay. Tasha watched them, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was what happiness looked like. Not perfection, but real love and commitment and choosing each other every single day. The rest of the weekend was spent planning and dreaming. They talked about the wedding, about where they'd live. Julian suggested selling his downtown penthouse and buying a house with a yard for Zoe to play in, about the future they'd build together. On Sunday, as they packed to return to the city, Tasha found Julian standing on the back deck looking out at the lake. Thank you, she said, coming to stand beside him. For what? For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. For loving Zoe like she's yours. Tasha turned to face him. For giving us a second chance at family. You gave me that chance, Julian corrected. You trusted me when you had every reason not to. You let me into your life, into your daughter's heart. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. They drove back to the city as a family, Zoe chattering in the back seat about all the things they'd do in their new house, Julian and Tasha holding hands across the console, both of them smiling at the beautiful future ahead. That evening, after dropping Tasha and Zoe at their apartment, Julian called his lawyer to start the adoption paperwork. Then he called a realtor about houses with good school districts and big yards. He was building a family. A real, permanent family. And for the first time since his grandmother died, Julian Pierce felt complete. Spring arrived in a burst of color and new beginnings. The adoption paperwork moved forward smoothly. Julian sold his downtown penthouse and they found a perfect house in a family-friendly neighborhood with excellent schools. It had 4 bedrooms, a big backyard with a tire swing, and enough space for Tasha to set up a home photography studio. They moved in together in late April, combining their lives in ways both practical and profound. Zoe picked out paint colors for her new bedroom. Tasha organized the kitchen while Julian assembled furniture. They planted flowers in the garden and hung family photos in the hallway. At work, Tasha continued to excel. Her campaigns won industry awards, and clients specifically requested her for their projects. Julian made sure everyone knew she'd earned her success through talent and hard work, not favoritism. He treated her professionally at the office, maintaining appropriate boundaries even as their personal life flourished. In early June, the adoption became official. They stood in a courtroom with a judge who smiled warmly at their little family. "Mr. Pierce," the judge said, "do you understand the responsibilities and commitments you're taking on by adopting Zoe Amon Bennett?"
Yes, Your Honor.
"Completely." "And Zoe," the judge looked at the 7-year-old standing between her mother and soon-to-be father, "do you understand that Mr. Pierce will legally become your father? That he'll have all the rights and responsibilities of a parent?"
Yes, Zoe said clearly. And I want him to be my dad. He already acts like my dad.
"This just makes it official and permanent." The judge's smile widened.
"Well said, young lady."
"Then by the power vested in me by the state, I declare this adoption legal and binding. Congratulations to your family." Julian bent down and swept Zoe into his arms, holding her close. "Hey daughter," he said, his voice breaking. "Hey Dad," Zoe responded, and everyone in the courtroom got misty-eyed. Outside the courthouse they took pictures together. A new family made official by law and bound together by love. "2 more months until the wedding," Tasha said as they drove home. "Are you getting nervous?" "Not even a little," Julian replied. "Best decision I ever made, asking you to marry me." The wedding planning had been surprisingly stress-free. They decided on a simple ceremony at the botanical garden where they'd had their first family outing together. No elaborate production, just close friends, family, and the people who mattered most. Tasha wore a beautiful dress in champagne, elegant and understated. Zoe wore a matching outfit in a smaller size, delighted to be included in every aspect of the ceremony. August arrived warm and bright. The morning of the wedding, Tasha stood in the botanical garden's bridal suite with Patricia, who had insisted on helping her get ready. "How are you feeling?" Patricia asked, adjusting Tasha's veil. "Happy," Tasha said simply. "Just really, really happy." "You deserve it," Patricia said warmly. "Both of you do." In another room, Julian was getting ready with Zoe's help. She insisted on being his official helper, straightening his tie and making sure his suit was perfect. "You look handsome, Dad," Zoe declared.
"Thank you, kiddo.
"You look pretty beautiful yourself." "Are you nervous about marrying Mommy?"
Not nervous. Excited.
Grateful. Julian knelt down to Zoe's level. "Thank you for sharing your mom with me. And for letting me be your dad." "Thank you for wanting to be my dad," Zoe said seriously. "A lot of people wouldn't want to take on someone else's kid. But you never acted like I was extra or a burden. You always made me feel wanted." "You'll always be wanted, Zoe.
Always.
No matter what." Julian pulled her into a hug. "I love you, kiddo." "I love you too, Dad." The ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. Tasha walked down the garden path on her own, confident and radiant. Zoe stood beside Julian at the altar, holding the rings carefully. The officiant spoke about love, commitment, and family. About how sometimes life brings people together in unexpected ways, and how those unexpected connections often become the most meaningful. When it was time for vows, Julian went first. "Tasha, I promise to be your partner in all things. To support your dreams and celebrate your successes. To be there in hard times and happy times. To love you completely for all of who you are." He paused, then looked at Zoe. "And Zoe, I promise to be the father you deserve. To show up for school plays and soccer games. To help with homework and listen to your stories. To love you as my own because you are my own." Tasha wiped tears from her eyes as she spoke her own vows. "Julian, you saw me at my lowest point and chose to help me up instead of walking past. You've shown me what real love looks like. Patient, kind, and strong. I promise to be your partner, your supporter, and your biggest fan. I promise to love you for exactly who you are, today and always." They exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced them married. And when Julian kissed his new wife, everyone cheered. At the reception afterward, held in the garden's event space, Zoe gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. "I'm only 7, she said, standing on a chair so everyone could see her, but I know what real love looks like now. It looks like my dad carrying me to bed when I fall asleep on the couch. It looks like my mom working hard to give me a good life. It looks like both of them choosing each other and choosing me. So I want to say thank you to my dad for being the dad who stayed. And thank you to my mom for being brave enough to let love happen again." Julian and Tasha danced their first dance as husband and wife to a soft romantic song. They swayed together, wrapped in each other's arms and the certainty that they'd made the right choice. "We did it," Tasha whispered. "We actually did it." "We did," Julian agreed. "Built a family from nothing but hope and determination." "And love," Tasha added. "Mostly love." Later in the evening, as the party continued around them, Julian pulled Tasha aside to a quiet corner of the garden. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small box. "A wedding gift." Inside was a delicate necklace with 3 intertwined circles. "One for each of us," Julian explained. "Connected. Unbreakable. Family." Tasha let him fasten it around her neck, touching the pendant gently. "It's perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect. Our life is perfect." Julian kissed her softly. "Thank you for taking a chance on me that day at the hospital. For saying yes when I offered you a job. For believing we could be more than just employer and employee. Thank you for seeing past the struggles to the person underneath. For loving not just me but my daughter too. For proving that good men do exist, and sometimes they show up exactly when you need them most." They rejoined the party, dancing with Zoe and celebrating with friends and colleagues. Patricia gave Tasha a knowing smile. Several of the Pierce Media Group employees toasted the happy couple. And through it all, Tasha felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year ago, she'd been collapsing in a parking lot from exhaustion and malnutrition. She'd been facing eviction and working herself to death trying to survive. Now, she had a husband who loved her, a stable job she excelled at, a beautiful home, and most importantly, a happy, secure daughter who finally knew what it felt like to have a complete family. As the reception wound down and they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Patricia had arranged childcare for Zoe for the week. Tasha took one last look around the botanical garden. This place had witnessed so many of their important moments. Their first family outing. The proposal. And now their wedding. "Ready to start our new life, Mrs. Pierce?" Julian asked, offering his hand. "I've been ready since the day you asked me to dance at that charity gala," Tasha said, taking his hand. "Let's go home." They drove away from the reception with Zoe buckled safely in the back seat, all 3 of them talking excitedly about the future. About family vacations and holiday traditions they'd create. About the life they'd build together, founded on kindness, hope, and love. Because in the end, that's what saved them all. Not money or status or convenience. Just simple, powerful, transformative love. And as they pulled into the driveway of their house, the sun setting in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Tasha realized something profound. She hadn't been saved by a billionaire CEO. She'd been given an opportunity, yes, but she'd saved herself by being brave enough to accept help, to take chances, and to believe in the possibility of happiness again. And Julian? He hadn't saved her. He'd joined her. Partnered with her. Built something beautiful alongside her. That night, after tucking Zoe into bed and kissing her goodnight, Julian and Tasha stood in their bedroom looking out at the backyard where the tire swing moved gently in the evening breeze. "Do you think we'll always be this happy?" Tasha asked. "I think we'll have challenges," Julian said honestly. "Life isn't perfect. But as long as we face those challenges together, as long as we choose each other and choose love every single day, then yes, I think we'll be this happy." "I choose you," Tasha said. "Today and every day." "I choose you too," Julian replied. "Forever." And they meant it. Not as empty words or romantic promises, but as fundamental truth. They'd chosen each other once, in a hospital room when everything felt broken and impossible. They'd chosen each other again and again through months of building trust and love. And they'd keep choosing each other for the rest of their lives. Because that's what real love is. Not a once-and-done decision, but a daily commitment to show up, to try, to care, and to build something beautiful together. As they went to bed that night, wrapped in each other's arms in the home they'd made together, Tasha sent up a silent thank you to whatever force had brought Julian Pierce to that wedding 9 months ago. To whatever twist of fate had made her collapse in the parking lot, had made Zoe cry loud enough to catch his attention, had created the circumstances for their lives to intersect. She'd been at rock bottom, but sometimes rock bottom is just a foundation on which to build something magnificent. And magnificent is exactly what they'd built. A family. A home. A life filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that comes from choosing kindness over fear, hope over despair, and love over everything else.